Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen nabiyina Muhammadi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een amma ba'du. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to a fiqh hour, the last of 2025, literally on the last day of 2025. And it's been a few weeks since our last fiqh hour. We have obviously gathered some questions now, inshallah. So as we have gathered some questions, we're now going to work through those. But obviously, you're free to put your questions up on the chat as well. I will just remind the colleagues that we are live so that they can share accordingly. Message has gone. Okay, that was the Azan start time. Okay, so let's take the questions as they've already come in, inshallah. So go to the gents group first. I know we've had some questions come in. Where are we? Yeah, some interesting questions first that I'll tackle. Okay, where are we? So on the December the 29th, we posted a message on our Markaz al-Ifta wal-Qāḍī. In there, we said Fiqh Hour is a live question-led session focused on practical Islamic rulings and real-life issues. Rather than following a fixed lecture format, each session is shaped by the questions that are submitted. Okay, questions are collected in advance and answered live, with additional questions taken during the session itself. This allows common concerns, everyday dilemmas, and contemporary issues to be addressed clearly and directly. Fiqh Hour runs whenever there is a sufficient number of questions. That's the key part. Okay. Fiqh Hour runs whenever there is a sufficient number of questions, ensuring that each session is focused, relevant, and beneficial. Unless so. And then someone says, someone asked the question on the same day, mashallah, on the same day, after about 6-7 hours, when is the next Fiqh Hour? Ajib. Baisab, if it's clearly written there that the Fiqh Hour runs whenever there is a sufficient number of questions, then if you can't even read the message, then to what benefit is any ilm? Read the messages, brothers and sisters, please. Okay, so admin responds, may Allah bless him, when there are sufficient number of questions. Okay, first question, is buying a car on a lease or PCP involve interest? Well, that's a very generic question, very difficult on the lease part anyway, because the lease can be of various types. So you need to make sure that the lease you have is Sharia compliant. PCP does involve interest, so that's quite easy and clear. I am working with an organization, Qantara Finance, as you may know, in which we are trying to put together a halal way of buying cars, inshallah. So watch this space. Next question. If one forgets that he has taken an oath to not undertake something, but ends up doing it forgetfully, does this violate the oath and thus require a kafara? Well, the question comes, how does he know that he has broken the oath if he's done it forgetfully? So again, it's a peculiar question. If one forgets that he's taken an oath to not undertake something, and he does that, so he's done that thing forgetfully, how does he know, how does he remember now he's taken an oath? Okay, I guess he can find out afterwards. Does this violate the oath and thus require a kafara? Yes, because when he remembered that he had taken an oath, then of course he would have to do that. If one performs both salams at the end of the prayer, then recalls he has a sajda sahwa to make, can one do this? Yes, even if you've made salam to both sides and you recall that you have a sajda sahwi to do, then you may do it after, and then once you finish that, carry on from at-tahiyyat. My son is studying in London and has taken almost all of his personal belongings for the academic year. Does he need to pray qasr when he visits us or full? He has traveled from Beeford. I'm assuming Beeford means Bradford. It's the first time I've seen somebody spell Bradford as Beeford, usually BFD, but khair. Well, of course, he won't have taken all his belongings. He won't have taken his bed with him. He won't have taken his bedroom with him. His letters will still be addressed to his home. So therefore, he's not really changed anything. It's just that he's going for a lengthy time away. So no, he will pray full when he returns because this is his home. If one is coerced under duress, the fear of one's life or limb to utter talaq, does this utterance count against him? Yes. If one is coerced under duress and he utters talaq, then his talaq will count. It is best that he asks the person to give him a piece of paper and he writes the talaq. In that way, if he is coerced under duress, the talaq does not take place. Assalamu alaikum. Is there a link for the last fiqh live? Another interesting question, mashallah, from one of our members. Brothers, we post it every single time there is a fiqh hour. It does not take much energy or time to just scroll up and look for it, rather than disturbing the admin who have enough to do. May Allah bless you all. But admin, mashallah, responds. May Allah bless the admin. A minor, a ghair baligh, is not accountable for their mistakes. Would the guardian of the minor be held liable for any damages? No, the guardian will not be held responsible for any damages. And will these damages be paid out of the wealth of the guardian or the minor? It will be paid out from the minor. Okay, so these, that person is legally responsible to settle these. In the following scenario, the imam makes both salams at the end of his prayer, and we rise to complete what we have missed with him. And then he enters into sajda sahwi, and now those standing don't join him. What is the ruling of their prayer if they continue praying alone, thinking the prayer had terminated with his salutations? Well, obviously he has made an error, and they need to rectify that error. So they need to stay with him until he completes his sajda sahwa and then stand. That's why one shouldn't, until the imam has completely finished from his prayer, then they should start to stand. What is the penalty for a non-intentional homicide? Well, if you're in Bradford, then that means it would be the UK. So if it's manslaughter, then I guess it depends what manslaughter is for. Do bear in mind that, yes, even though we live in Bradford, the Sharia does not apply in Bradford. It is UK law still in Bradford. I guess some of these kind of academic questions, which have no relevance to our lives whatsoever, that. So we need to just ask questions, please, which are relevant. A forwarded question. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. It's nice to get a salam at the beginning of a question. There are adab and etiquettes. Zakah on gold held for personal use. I would be grateful for your guidance on the issue of zakah on gold that is owned for personal use. As I understand, the majority of scholars, including the Maliki, the Shafi, and the Hanbali, hold the view that gold and jewelry kept for personal use is not zakatable, whereas the Hanafi school considers all gold and silver zakatable regardless of use. Yes, I said that with a little bit of hesitation. It is that gold which the woman wears that the Maliki, Shafi, and the Hanbali school would say that is not zakatable. Any gold which she stores and does not wear, except possibly on special occasions, then there is ikhtilaf. Can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I'm going to chance it. I believe the Maliki school will say that there is zakat due upon that. So the reason why the gold, which the woman wears all the time, like fingers, like rings, earrings, necklaces, those that she would always wear, like she wears a jumper, then this is considered as part of her clothes. And because it's considered part of her clothes, then there is no zakat due, even though, yes, it's gold and yes, it's silver, and it has an inherent value, which tends not to depreciate. They do not consider this as an asset, which is zakatable. The Hanafi do, which you correctly said. In many Asian families, gold jewelry is not treated as an investment or wealth intended for trade. It is usually kept for personal use, worn occasionally, for example, at weddings, and often preserved to be passed down to children. There is generally no intention to sell it or generate income from it. That might be the case, okay? That might be the case, but I'll allow the questioner to carry on. Given this context, would such gold still be considered zakatable? Would it be comparable to a house that one owns for personal living, not for rental or resale, on which zakat is not due? I would appreciate your clarification on how intention, usage, and cultural practice are considered in this ruling, and whether following the majority opinion would be valid in this case, as many are getting confused in this matter. Jazakumullahu khairan for your time and guidance. Barakallahu feek. Very polite. I don't think many are confused in this situation. The Malikis, those who know the Maliki madhab, they're fine. The Shafis, if they know their madhab, they're fine. The Hanbalis, if they know their madhab, they're fine. The Hanafis, if they know their madhab, they're fine. I guess it's not necessarily a point of confusion, but it's more a point of why not us? Because obviously you're giving zakat. And I guess a person doesn't necessarily want to give zakat because they know they're always going to have this gold. They're never going to sell it. So for the next whatever, how many years that woman is alive for, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of marriage, she's going to give zakat on it every year. And obviously that's going to reduce in essence because she's not using that gold. Its value is depreciating. And I get that. However, obviously we can't chop and change legal schools because a particular position doesn't suit us. That is the position within our school, and that's what we adhere to. Others, what you're going to find is then you say, well, okay, you know, I'm traveling and I find that not being able to join prayers is a problem. So can I become a Maliki or can I become a Shafi and join prayers? Or you could play football. And as you play football, the requirements of the league is that you wear shorts. And these shorts don't cover your knees and don't cover the top of your the bottom of your thighs, the bit which is attached to your knee. So then you might say, oh, okay, I'm going to become a Maliki now, because according to the Maliki, they do not consider the thigh to be part of the aura of a man. They only consider the private parts to be aura of a man. So what happens now is you think, that's fine. So I'm going to become a Maliki there. So in essence, you're not really following a madhab. Okay. What you become is then you will become a follower of your whims and desires, because you can find within each school positions which are inverted commas easy or easier, right? But if you follow a madhab, then you take the rough with the smooth. There'll be some positions in which the school will be easier and some positions which it may be deemed as stricter compared to those schools. But because you're adhering to one school, then you're getting, you know, the chalk and the cheese. You're not just, but you can't just jump around and literally just follow your desires, follow your whims, because then your desires becomes the imam. So we have that basis, and the basis for the Hanafi school is quite clear, that this is a gold and silver asset which is intrinsically valuable. Intrinsically, it has a value. Clothes, they will get worse the more you wear them. Eventually, they'll become secondhand. Eventually, they will be not even worth putting in the charity bag, and you'd have to throw them away. That never happens with gold. And in fact, if you're following the gold price or have been following the gold and silver price, it's appreciating all the time and has really done. And the reason why it appreciates is not because gold and silver is appreciating, but the reality is that the cost of other things is being devalued because of the devaluing of the dollar or the pound or whatever, euro, whatever it is you're dealing in. That's what's really happening. The gold is stationary. So if I had a gold bar so big, I would be able to buy a 4-bedroom house, you know, in the 1970s. And guess what? That same gold bar size would buy me a house in 2025, same size house. So the gold value has remained the same, and its buying power has remained the same. The buying power of the pound, the buying power of the euro, the buying power of the dollar is what has depreciated. Okay. So I hope that makes sense, and I've been very clear in the examples I've given. In the cause, if the cause of an unintentional act of harm is unlawful, if the cause of an unintentional act of harm is unlawful, is that harm pardoned by the Sharia, both for sin and liability? Maybe my question best illustrated through an example. Someone unintentionally destroys another's property because they were under the influence of some narcotic or alcohol, or someone kills another in a road accident whilst drunk. You see, these aren't the three which are considered as being excused. You see, this person has chose to be under the influence of alcohol. He has chose to be under the influence of some narcotic, which is haram in the first place. Sleeping is not haram. Okay, that's why we're not judged because we're sleeping. Being a child is not haram because we don't choose to be a child. Becoming insane or losing your mental faculties is not done by choice. It happens. So these three are, inverted commas, natural, whereas consuming alcohol is a voluntary act. It's not involuntary. The other three acts are involuntary. So, and those involuntary acts are normal. You know, being a child is normal, sleeping is normal. Okay, one might argue, you know, having a mental breakdown is not normal. Yes, but it is a normal result of excess stress or you know, certain makeup and all the rest of it. Okay. So the sin is not only is the sin in being drunk, if we take that example. So not only is it a sin, for example, you know, more realistic is the way the young lads do these balloons. So the one thing is now is you're taking a narcotic, right, like the balloons, which is haram, and then you're sitting yourself behind the wheel of a car, which driving under that is haram anyway because it's illegal as well. Secondly, you've got people in your car with you that may not choose to allow you to drive the way you're driving, which is haram because you're jeopardizing the other people. And then you're driving on a road where there's other road users that are being sensible, whether they are pedestrians or driving motorists, driving other vehicles. So it's haram on so many levels. Okay. So that answers the questions on the gents group. Let's have a look on the ladies group. Ladies group, where are we? Ah, oh, looking on the wrong group. It'd help if you look on the right group. Yeah. So the right group is here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mufti wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Why is it that the sisters always have good manners, mashallah, and the brothers have no manners? Okay, so sister makes a nice salam. Is it permissible for a person staying in a hotel overlooking al-Masjid al-Haram to perform their salah from their hotel room with the congregation? I have answered this previously. The fact that I can remember it tells you that I've answered it. But no, because the sufuf, there has to be a connection in the safs, or what is physically possible to make safs, that make connection within the safs. Next one, assalamu alaikum, hope you're well. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Again, a sister, mashallah, very pleasant, asking how I am. Barakallahu fiqh, may Allah bless you. Is it permissible to buy and use products from companies which also have businesses in insurance money, banks, mezzanine funds, and interest money? And most likely the products were produced and ingredients bought with haram money. Remember, the Sharia doesn't apply to non-Muslims. I'm assuming you're buying from a non-Muslim company. Remember the what was I going to say? Remember the Sharia does not apply to non-Muslims when it comes to their muamalat. They're not required to obey certain laws and that, and therefore we can transact and trade with them. This is different for working for them. That's a different thing. This is transacting and trading. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ transacted and traded with polytheists. He transacted and traded with Jewish people, and most likely transacted and traded with Christians, especially when he traveled towards Syria, and even those very small Christian groups that existed within the area of Medina. So yes, it's permissible to trade with them, assuming that generally speaking they are dealing in halal products. Of course, if they're generally speaking dealing in haram products, then that's not the case, because otherwise, if we were to pass a fatwa and say you can't, then we would struggle, wouldn't we? You know, even going into your supermarkets like Morrison's, Tesco, Sainsbury's, Lidl, Aldi, they have alcohol there. Okay, they sell mayyit, yani meita. They sell animals which have not been slaughtered through the zabiha method, and they sell other things which are impermissible for us. So they generate funds from there, and of course they will have money invested in accounts and things of that nature, which would be generating funds of an illegal sense. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. I hope you're well. Barakallahu fiqh. I'm very well, thank you. If something is clearly haram according to the Sharia, does declaring it halal constitute an act of kufr? Likewise, does making something halal into haram amount to kufr? Something which is categorically, usually this is a verse of the Quran or a mutawatir hadith in which now there is no ambiguity, there is no istinbat or istikhraj, there is no deduction or in inference from an ayah or a hadith, meaning it is absolutely unequivocal, it's as bright as the light of the day, and one says, no, that's halal. Okay, that's halal. So if someone says, aliyadu billah, that consuming khinzir is halal, right? Then that would amount. The person would be reminded that, brother, sister, there's a verse of the Quran. We don't go straight from zero to hero, or hero to zero in this case. We wouldn't say to that person straight away, okay, you're a kafir, you know that, don't you? You'd say, look, brother, you need to see what state of mind this person is in. Especially, you might be having an argument. This is usually when people blurt these things out. He's having an argument. Now's not the time to raise it. Let time pass. Have a conversation later. Or, brother, you mentioned something when it's calmer. You mentioned something earlier. I just wanted to pick that conversation up. You're mentioning that, according to you, khinzir is halal. Is that correct? Did I hear you correctly? And if he says, yeah, absolutely, then show him some verses of the Quran. Say, look, is this verse here? Is this verse here? Is this verse here? Now, if he sees it and he says, I didn't know that, astaghfirullah, then you might say, look, it'd be wise if you repeat your shahada now that you do know, and everything is fine. If he tries to squirm and tries to, find an answer or whatever, then I say, look, brother, you're not a scholar, so just be a bit careful what you're going to say now. Maybe it's better just take it on face value and move on and, just apologize. It's no big thing. And give the brother a chance to apologize. Don't putting him up against a wall saying, I'm going to prove you wrong and I'm going to prove myself right. Because unfortunately, if this person has a bit of an ego on him, he's going to carry on and he's going to utter the words again. So give him a door to walk through. So just say, look, maybe you've not really understood it, whatever, and allow him to apologize. If he sees the verse, he understands the verse, and repeatedly people have engaged with him, and he's been given plenty of time to think about it, then unfortunately, yes, that would make a person a kafir, because they're denying something which is unequivocal. And likewise, if something which is halal, somebody is making it haram, then again, because Allah is what makes halal, it's as equal, you see. We're a little bit more careful when something is haram and somebody is making it halal, but we're not as careful when something is halal and somebody's making it haram, because we think, well, we're avoiding it, aren't we? So it's not a bad thing. And whereas in the other case we were doing it and someone told us, don't do that, that's haram, and we stopped it. In this case, we were doing it and that somebody came and said, oh, that's haram, so I stopped doing it. So I've given up a mubah thing. That's fine. But we're not the legists, we're not the shari, we're not the bringers of the law. Allah and the Prophet ﷺ were the bringers of the law. And since the passing of the Prophet ﷺ, he is himself not bringing the law, and likewise he's not bringing any message from Allah to us. So that means that's it. The law stopped. All we can do is deduct, infer, and that's all we can do. But on matters which are unequivocal, we can't deduct or infer because it's there. All we can do is contextualize it. When I say we, the ulama, they can contextualize it based on the circumstances and see if there's any factors that need to be taken into consideration, and especially the sort of social kind of place that we find ourselves in. Okay, so I hope I answered that, inshallah. Whilst I wait for these other questions to come, I'll just check if there's been anything else. No, so there was a brother who asked me a question whilst I'm waiting for the question. Wa alaikum salam. There was a brother who asked a question, and his was an interesting question. He read some ibara in a text called Nurul Idah, which is a very famous text. I have it behind me. It's a text which is used as a primer for learning the Hanafi school. And in there is quite unequivocal. It mentions that وَتَارِكُ الصَّلَاةِ عَمْدًا كَسْلًا يَضْرِبُ ضَرْبًا شَدِيدًا حَتَّى يَسِيلَ مِنْهُ الدَّمُ وَيَحْبِسُ حَتَّى يُسَلِّيهَا وَكَذَا تَارِكُ صَوْمِ رَمَضَانَ. So this talking about somebody who abandons prayer, either intentionally or just out of laziness, procrastination, that the fact that this person would actually be corporal punishment would be given to him. And he found that quite heavy. And I said, of course, this doesn't mean somebody doesn't go to Salah, you grab him and give him a good slap. This is when there is a judicial system in place where the Amir or his equivalent. Now, unfortunately, on the surface of the earth, there are very, 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 very few places in which Allah's law rules. For the great majority of us, even those which are Muslim countries, we kind of work on a kind of a bi-legal system, meaning there's a little bit of Sharia and then there's what we call kind of modern law that's come in. And that's the same in the UK. There's obviously no Sharia in the sense within the legal system, it's the UK law. But when we apply it to ourselves, we obviously apply Sharia to ourselves, the way we get married, when our children are born, our worship, what we consume, the keeping of beards, things like that. We apply the Sharia to ourselves. But there is no external body that kind of ensures that we are abiding by the Sharia. Like I said, there's only very few lands that do that. So those lands that do that, they will have that. And if people think, well, okay, that's a bit severe. Remember, the Sharia does not differentiate between criminal law and what we call private law. It's the same. Okay. Now we might separate that in modern world, because in the modern world we separate what we call private law from sort of public law. Private law meaning how we pray salah. Because the church, from a European perspective, the church and the state separated. And when the church and the state separated, then people would go to the church and the priests with regards to their religious obligations, and they would go to the state with regards to their state obligations. And Islam has also gone through a similar sort of breakdown. They had the sultans, that became the state leaders, and then they had their ulama. Therefore, you had like the Hanafi school, the Maliki school, the Shafi school, the Hanbali school, and they learned there. But some sultans obviously brought certain Sharia laws in. Why? Because they wanted to, on the face of it, be seen to be religious, and also be seen to be applying religious law in order to keep the masses in control. And therefore there would never be anybody overthrowing them or anything of that nature. So you see that, but in reality, that's why when that brother asked a question that what is the kafara for unintentional murder, like what's the relevance of that? Apart from as an academic pursuit, and apart from ulama whose job it is to retain the ilm and pass it on to the next generation, for the 99.9% of the people on the earth, it has no relevance unless obviously you have a Shari'i system. And if you have a Shari'i system, it will be part of the law. Like it is, like you can't kill anybody in the UK. You can't go through red traffic lights. Yes, I appreciate that crimes are slightly different, but it's a crime nonetheless. It might be dealt with a ticket and a fine on the spot with a red light. I guess that's not going to be the case with murder. You're going to be arrested, and there's going to be a court case and all the rest of it. But the issue is the same. Similarly, not praying salah is the same as murdering someone. Again, you might think, oh, okay, that's a bit, they're two different things. They are a bit like the traffic light and the murdering a person, because when you don't pray salah, that's a sin against yourself or a sin against Allah's commands. Whereas when you murder somebody, then it's a sin against Allah's commands, and you're taking somebody's life. So it's a double whammy there. It's hukukul ibad and hukukullah. Whereas if you don't pray salah, then it is a hukukullah, and you'll be answerable to Allah. So and then he asked me to look at the Maraq al-Falah, which is a sharh, a commentary written by Imam Shrumbulali. And he writes it quite severe. He mentions this. Okay, he says, وَهَذَا جَزَاؤُهُ الدُّنْيَوِيَّ. This is his punishment in the world, the beating. وَأَمَّا فِي الْآخِرَةِ. As for him in the hereafter, إِذَا مَاتَ عَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ عَاصِيًا. If he still is a Muslim, yani he did not renegade from Islam, but he's asiyan, yani he's a sinner, he is a transgressor, بِتَرْكِهَا, by abandoning salah for no legitimate reason, فَلَهُ عَذَابٌ طَوِيلٌ. Then he will have an elongated, a long punishment, بِوَادٍ فِي جَهَنَّمْ, in a valley in Jahannam, أَشَدُّهَا حَرًّا, it is the most severe in heat, وَأَبْعَدُهَا قَعْرًا, and it is the deepest in terms of depth. فِيهِ بِئْرٌ, in there's a well called, I think this is Hubhub, it could be Habhab, Allahu A'lam. And what flows towards it is the sweat and pus and all the nasties that are liquids, which are bodily fluids, which are coming out of the people of Jahannam, and that's going there. أُعِدَتْ لِتَارِكِ الصَّلَاةِ. This has been prepared for the ones who abandon salah. This is based on the hadith from Jabir radiallahu anhu, in which he describes it by saying, بَيْنَ الرَّجُلِ وَبَيْنُ الْكُفْرِ تَرْكُ الصَّلَاةِ. That between a person and between kufr is the abandoning of salah. Meaning the barrier which is preventing kufr coming onto this person is salah. Okay, so salah is acting as a shield, salah is acting as a barrier, and once he drops this barrier, once he drops this shield, then kufr will come over him. So there were numerous companions who would consider a person who abandoned prayer to be a kafir. Okay, because they said it's very difficult to know a person's iman because that's an internal thing. You can't determine iman. The way you can, and obviously fasting, you could, when you're in public, not eat, but in private you could eat, so you can't determine fasting. Going for hajj is once a year. Shahada, well, that's we've already mentioned that. And zakat, you could be given that secretly. So the only thing which is a public gathering 5 times a day, this is primarily for men. For women, it would be very difficult to tell. Primarily for men, the public gathering is a prayer. And that's where it would be determined. So yeah, it's very serious. Okay. Mufti sir, is there any truth to the concept that every letter of the Quran has a muwakkil angel associated with it, and one can write ta'weez to seek aid from these muwakkils? That's the first time. Wa alaikum salam. My apologies, I didn't see you. Assalamu alaikum. That's the first time I've ever heard of something like that, and there is no evidence to my knowledge of things of that nature. And the other brother doesn't start with a salam. Salam se shuru kar lo bhai. Female taking menses blockers made tawaf whilst there was spotting of discharge, which seems to have come about after a proper tuhur. Does she have to give a major dam? Yes. Even though we ignore whether she's taken menses blockers or not, if she's done a complete tuhur and there is a colouring, spotting, discharge, whatever, then we would consider her haid to have started. And as a consequence, she performed tawaf, made tawaf. She did that, so yes, there would be a large animal due from the Hanafi perspective. Okay, alhamdulillah, that's all the questions answered so far. I will hang fire for about another 5-10 seconds in case somebody has others. I'll quickly scan the groups again in case somebody has asked something on here. So nothing more on the gents. Nothing more on the ladies. And there are all the questions that I can remember that have come to me today. Barakallah fiqh. Okay, I think we can stop there, inshallah. So again, for those that are struggling to read things, maybe you can hear that once we get a large, sorry, is the major or minor? Major. Sorry, I thought I clarified that. Yeah, it would be a camel, wouldn't it? Because she's made tawaf. She has already made tawaf in the state of haid. And that's the issue. And some ulama do permit this. They say that if a woman is stuck and there is no way she can wait, and there is no way she, her ticket can be extended and all the rest of it because of all these arrangements that have been made, then they permit that she may make tawaf in this state and then give a major dam for the Hanafi perspective, which is a camel, which is expensive. Okay. So I was about to say, so as we have elaborated on the group, when we get a sufficient number of questions, you might say, what is sufficient? Let's just use the word several. Then what I do is the upcoming Wednesday, as long as I don't have an appointment of sorts, the upcoming Wednesday, so I normally check on a Tuesday, and if I've got several questions, I think, okay, fine, I'll let the admin guys know we're going to have a fiqh hour, inshallah, on Wednesday, assuming I have that time on that Wednesday. If on Tuesday or we don't have the question, but the tawaf is wajib, so based on speculative text. So how is there is a major dam? Which I made the assumption that this is a fard Hajj tawaf. That's why I assumed you were mentioning that from that perspective. So anyway, what was I saying? Lost my train of thought. Yeah, so Tuesday I check, and if Tuesday there is a sufficient number of questions, then what I would do is on the coming Wednesday, I would tell the team that, okay, prepare, inshallah, the fiqh hour, and we'll go forward with it. As I said, assuming I'm free as well on that Wednesday. If I check on a Tuesday and there's not enough questions, or I'm not free on that Wednesday, then there won't be a fiqh hour. So as we're getting kind of used to it, it's usually once every 3 to 4 weeks, I'm finding that we get a sufficient number of questions coming in. And then inshallah, we take it forward. Please do share the links. I think that's where we're going wrong a little bit. Every time somebody asks me a question, they say, oh, Mufti, I never knew you had this service. And I just scratch my head. I'm thinking, subhanAllah, you know how long we've been doing fiqh hour for? I think we've been doing this for, I don't even know how long we've been doing it for. Maybe one of you can check. We've been doing this a long time. Okay, several years, I would say at least we've been doing this. Primarily, it was on the, actually, yeah, we set up into, I remember now, primarily it was written on the Markaz al-Ifta wal-Qāḍī Telegram group. It was about 2016, 17 we started, something around there. So it's nearly coming up to 10 years, alhamdulillah, we've been providing it online. Obviously, al-Ifta, alhamdulillah, has been running for 20 years, but having this kind of online facility, quick response, this is something we've been running around since that time. Last few years, obviously, because I just don't have the time, unfortunately, now to respond as regularly as before. I have lots of other responsibilities. And obviously, we've got like several thousand answers on the group, but people just don't search it. SubhanAllah, got several thousand answers, probably touching on every single topic and subject that exists. We have an admin on there that helps as well. So I need to go as well. I have another meeting at 6:30, which is now 7 minutes late. But I'll get back to that meeting, inshallah, shortly. So we have lots of answers there. So please do share the link to the videos as well, but also not to the videos, but also to the channels, so people can come on and ask questions. The Ramadan is not too far away, 7 weeks or so away. Ramadan will come. People will have so many questions and they won't know where to go. We have a service. Let them use it. Similarly, we've got lots of videos, okay, on so many different topics. And usually Ramadan is a period where people are kind of reconnecting with their deen. And because they're reconnecting with their deen, then at least in that case, there is an opportunity now for them to, watch something or whatever. So, do your own dawah work. Find those people in your family that are a little bit away from the deen. We just talked about salah and the grave penalty that the person should face in the dunya, but will face in the akhirah, and how many of our own family members don't pray. They don't even take it seriously, and what the consequences are. And on top of that, obviously, is the fact that they're a little bit more alert in Ramadan. So give them access to the channels, give them access to the YouTube, share some videos. We touch on atheism, we touch on evolution, we touch upon Muslim minorities, we touch on Aqidah. I've lost track of the different types of subjects that we have. We touch on business, business transactions. We touch on salah times. We touch on moon sighting. All the interesting and lovely topics. And not only on our YouTube channel, obviously, I work closely with Al-Balagh. So I've done lots of work with Al-Balagh. You'll find lots of material on their YouTube. And in fact, I've done it with a few other people, Daya Foundation. I've done some Aqidah work. And so there's lots of material out there. And it doesn't necessarily have to be me as well. If there is another reputable scholar that has been okayed and valued, then you benefit from his ilm as well. Barakallahu fiqh. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.